how are you? In this particular segment, I am going to answer questions many of you have had. Who is Mr. Stromer? Why has he been in contact with me? I'm going to introduce you to some communications between myself and the United States Attorney, in which you'll see that Mr. Stromer is actually specifically named. And then I'm going to discuss some communications in writing between Mr. Stromer and myself. As federally recognized tribal members, members of the General Council, I want to remind you always the General Council are the tribe. The spokesman and all of the committees, whether it's the business committee or any other committee, are subservient to the General Council. So feel free to ask your spokesman and any of the members of anyone on any of the committees who these people are, what they are doing, and what they're charging you. Because it very well could be that things are happening you're not aware of. Many people have reached out to me wanting to know who Jeffrey Stromer is. The photograph that is on the screen before you is a picture that is readily available on the internet. This is Attorney Jeffrey Stromer. For those of you who may have attended some of the meetings over at the Tribal Hall, perhaps you recognize him from years ago. Mr. Stromer is an attorney who represented to me he actually is involved in enrollment at San Pasqual. You will find a link below, and the link will take you to the document that was filed in the Alto case prepared by Mr. Stromer's law firm. There'll be another link that takes you to the Court of Appeal that gave us Black versus Alto. At the meeting in February, I did misspeak. I believe that Mr. Stromer was actually up in Washington State. It turns out the office is on Washington Street in Portland, Oregon. I do not know how long Mr. Stromer has been involved in any of the enrollment issues at San Pasqual. Clearly, back before the Alto case was completed, he was involved. But pertaining to our case, Black versus Alto made it very clear that they have absolutely nothing to do with our case and shouldn't be involved in it at all. Second, if Mr. Stromer, involved in the enrollment issues at San Pasqual, has guided the tribe to have a moratorium on enrollment, he clearly does not know tribal law. When we get to Part 48, I will discuss this in more detail, but if you take a look at Part 48 and your Constitution, which incorporates in Part 48, it's the exact opposite. Not only is there no basis in which to have a moratorium on enrollment, to the contrary, the band is mandated to keep the rolls current. So we will address this more in another segment, but for your information, for all of you who are asking me, that is a photograph of Jeffrey Stromer. As many of you are aware, I received in a text message from the tribal spokesman directing me to be in touch with Mr. Stromer. As soon as I got the text message, I picked up the phone and I called for Mr. Stromer at his office at Hobbs, Strauss, Dean and Walker. I left a message wanting to set up a time to speak to him. I thought perhaps he had learned from Mr. Manahan what the United States Solicitor had said, that the 2005 enrollment could be sustained by the tribe. And so I called. There were a couple of letters that went back and forth between us, but initially Mr. Stromer advised me I am no longer allowed to have any contact with the tribal spokesman, nor am I allowed to have any contact with anyone at the San Pasqual tribal government. It was really quite stunning. Anyway, this is a letter that I wrote back to Mr. Stromer. As you can see, it was dated March 10th. And let me scroll down so that you can see the body of it. I reminded Mr. Stromer that his law firm is not involved in our court matter. And I am still not sure why Mr. Stromer would pick up the phone to contact a United States attorney after our initial settlement conference, if you will, with Magistrate Berg. Nevertheless, as you can see in the letter, paragraph 1, I advised him that if he is attempting to interfere with our case and the enrollment that needs to be sustained from the 2005 enrollment on a tribal level, I believe he is sitting in a perilously ethical conflict of interest. He was the attorney that was involved in the Alto case. He was the attorney that knows well the ruling from Alto versus Black. Nevertheless, I reminded him Mr. Manahan did advise me he had been in touch, and I'm sure it will eventually reveal itself as to why he would be in touch with the United States Attorney. I also let him know, as you can see in the letter, that I would be informing the enrolled tribal members because they need to inquire of the spokesman why he has Mr. Stromer interfering in our case and why I'm not supposed to have contact with him or any of the tribal government. Regarding Jeffrey Stromer, Part 2, email relating to George Manahan. For all of you who were able to attend the early neutral evaluation conference down in the Federal District Court with Magistrate Berg, there were a great number of you who attended both by yourselves virtually as well as with other family members. Now, if you go back and you refresh your recollection, there was a time period when Carolyn and I had gone into a breakout room. The breakout room was where the Magistrate Berg took me and Carolyn. The U.S. Attorney, Assistant U.S. Attorney George Manahan was there, as well as a solicitor from the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the magistrate judge. As I explained to all of you, when we came out of the breakout room and Magistrate Berg addressed all of you and then left us to speak, there had been a substantial dialogue between myself and the solicitor. I had asked George Manahan to be sure that someone from the Bureau of Indian Affairs with Enrollment Authority was available at this early neutral evaluation conference. And that is why I believe that the solicitor was in attendance. As you know, Amy Dutschke, back in 2006, never provided notice to any of the descendants who were enrolled on a tribal level in 2005. And our discussion was back and forth where I am asking that 48.9 notice be given so we can proceed to your enrollment to be federally recognized members of the San Pasqual Band of Kumeyaay Indians. It was the position of the solicitor that that was not necessary, that your tribal spokesman, your tribal government can sustain your enrollment. All they need to do is get in contact with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. If you recall, I let you know there was significant dialogue going on between us because I'm arguing tribal law. Part 48 was incorporated into your 1971 Constitution, making it tribal law, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs is mandated. They must follow tribal law. But it was the position of the solicitor that that is absolutely not the case, and all it takes is your tribal spokesman or tribal government to contact the Bureau that they can make happen your being added to the rolls of the San Pasqual Band. In fact, if you recall, while we were all speaking, one of your aunties got on the phone. She left the screen, got on the phone, and actually called the tribal spokesman because she came back and let us know that is what she had done. If you take a look at this email, and I would like to first draw your attention to part 2 down here. So this is from George Manahan, United States Department of Justice. He is the Assistant United States Attorney in San Diego who is working on your case. The first thing at part 2, Mr. Stromer from Hobbs Strauss reached out to me last week. I will call him back today to discuss, that's Magistrate J. Berg's recent order. What is your plan to talk with the tribe? First of all, I didn't really give it a thought then, but why would Mr. Stromer be reaching out to the United States Attorney about our case? He has no place in contacting the United States Attorney or having any input relating to the case. And if they wanted to know what was going on, why not reach out to me? The letter that was recently sent out by the tribal spokesman, which I contend was written by Mr. Stromer or someone in his office, they're not being truthful with you. The Assistant U.S. Attorney is asking, what is your plan to talk with the tribe? The reason he's asking that, everyone, is because Mr. Manahan was present when the solicitor is telling me that it is not necessary to send out 48.9 notice that your spokesman and your tribal government can sustain the 2005 enrollment. They just have to take action to do so. Then if you'd like to go up to the top, this is my response to Mr. Manahan. I'm telling him, yes, you can drop off the administrative record that we discussed at the meeting in February. Well, at this juncture, I am already speaking with whom I need to speak with. Mr. Stromer can phone me if he would like. Feel free to give him my number. The reason I let Mr. Manahan know I'm already speaking with whom I need to speak with is because, as you all know now, I had already been in contact with your tribal spokesman. So I'm afraid that the letter that the tribal spokesman has sent out to the enrolled members is not truthful. But we will get to that in a few minutes. I'm going to go through it paragraph by paragraph. But in the meantime, you can see you were not only present during the ENE in district court virtually, but also you can see the United States Attorney is asking me what my plan was to speak with your spokesman. And I let him know, actually, I'm already speaking with him.